down the screen, where we've been told about this network's taken over, and what's been going on from 2017. That's where it all starts. And then we jump straight into this helicopter scene. Go to the chopper. It's back in that again, isn't it? And now Arnold, Ben Richards, that's the name he's playing here. Now I'm taking it, Matt, he is like some kind of police. He's a police helicopter pilot. I mean, I don't know what he is, but I'm taking it that's been his job. There's not really a lot of background into this, but he's out there. He's kind of doing a mission. And of course, one thing I've got to say about this, Matt, before we get into the dialogue of this, but one thing I will say, Matt, when you first saw that, did you kind of get a vibe from any other films, like the satire of it all, or did you like the look of it? Because I kind of looked at it when looking at it like recently, I was thinking, God, this is actually probably one of my worst scenes in the film. I really didn't enjoy this. I felt like there was one thing that I would have redone completely. It would have been this scene. I just didn't like the look of it, and I felt it was just like forced down my throat to. There was no sort of let up for the audience to think, is Arnold a good guy or a bad guy? No, he's definitely a good guy, no doubt about it after this. What was your take on that scene, like when we come into the film, Matt, and it's setting up, the tone of the film?
Yeah, I totally can agree with it. I mean, when I was watching it, even I thought that was the weakest scene in the film, because even Arnie's acting in that is not really on
bad.
Point. It's very false when he's like, "There's people down there, damn it, they're already hungry," and all this stuff. I was thinking, man, you're just trying so hard to be the good guy. It's just so transparent. But I guess that's going to happen when you got a scriptwriter only has to do so much for this film, because, there's already been an amazing book out about this, and it's all laid out there in front of you. But then when you start tweaking things and going off script, and you're like, well, Arnie, we have to make this an Arnie film, and we have to make the characters strong, and then, you've got to rewrite a few things here and there, and then you're going a little bit off track, and, I think that was a bit of a mistake there. I think if they'd stuck more to the actual core of the book, then there might have been a bit more sympathy for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we get this whole thing about where Ben Richards is saying he sees a full writing progress with unarmed civilians, and then they kind of make it seem like by the lines they really want you to root for Ben Richards, and that they're like, no, kill them all anyway, and he's like. Whereas the way Ben Richards, the way Arnold delivers those lines is just like, oh, come on. It's like, there are innocent women and children down there. To hell with it. And then they get the next guy who just ruthlessly comes in and just like crashes Arnold's, Ben Richards, fun. And he gets taken out of the whole thing. So I guess there's no remorse from who these police guys are. I mean, this is a ruthless world that we're now living in the Running Man here, because it seems like nobody else is going to think along those lines. So my question is what the hell's been going on in Ben Richards' career if this is how they're handling all their problems? I don't know. I don't know why this is the first thing he would have come up against, where because it seems like it's quite standard practice at this point, and of course they just. They just kill everybody on the floor. There's apparently a food riot going on in Bakersfield, of all places. And that's where we get. And obviously, the scene ends where Arnold, of course, gets completely knocked out. And, he's got to be punished for this, Matt. He's going to be punished because 18 months later is where we then pick up. And it's interesting. Before I get to that point, I'm going to say this. There's an interesting trivia here about that diabolical helicopter scene, Matt, that they took footage of the attacking helicopters from the film King Kong, the 1976 version. So they didn't even get their own footage for that. They kind of just got some footage off of another film that they had probably lying around in the studio and thought, hang on, let's just use that. So no wonder it looks so bad. In the next scene, though, we get this. I think it's called the Wilshire Detention Zone, It's 18 months later, and this is, I guess, Matt, where we get like an introduction to a few of the other characters. But you know, what this reminded me of a little bit. It's construction again. It reminded me of almost like Total Recall, where he was a construction guy, and I thought, hang on, are we going here? Is this where we're going again? Ben Richards, now Arnold has to be this guy, but yeah, he's pottering around. He's holding these massive steel beams in his arms, and I guess the plot here is it's all about they're trying to get the code to get out of this place. Which, by the way, Matt, doesn't seem that difficult. I don't know how it took 18 months to sort this one out, but we get introduced to two of the other characters that are going to be quite prevalent into this film. We get his name's Wise, and we get who else is the other guy? I'm trying to think.
Lachlan.
Yeah. We get those two guys. So, what did you make of that, Matt? Was that like is that kind of like the version of Predator where we see these guys' strength, and it's about showing us what they can do together, type thing, in this scene?
Yeah.
What did you make of this, and just like the world that we're in, you know, because it is like, I mean, there's those things, they're all wearing these neck collars that if you go out of this zone, your head's literally just going to explode, no questions asked type of thing. What did you make of that scene, and like the surroundings and the way they did that one?
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of a lot of other movies around that time, when you think about the prison camp kind of environment and how they would treat their prisoners, and especially with those collars. I'm sure I've seen them somewhere before, where they just explode someone's head. It'll probably come to me like later on, but I definitely remember that. And yeah, it was definitely a bit stereotypical as well, when they're like, the guy with the glasses, he's the brains of the operation. Arnie, of course, he's the muscles. You know, it might as well just come up like E.T. or something. Like, so stereotypical in the way they presented them to us.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of this part of the movie either, actually. I mean, I just felt like it was another like extension of the previous scene, when they were like, okay, we've rewritten a bit here, and now we've got to give a reason as to why this person would be like entering as a contestant in the Running Man. I always say it's against his will. Whereas, you know, before it was voluntary, but, you know, let's just make it even harsher for Arnie. You know, he's doing this against his will. Even though it's so hard to feel like sorry for a guy who looks like he does, you know, because he looks like he definitely stands a chance in this thing.
Yeah, he does. Well, they pull this stunt where Loveland and Richards, they like pretend fighting, I guess, and that gets all the guards involved. And then we get our first one-liner of the film, Matt, give you a lift. When he picks up some poor security guard. That's the first one of the film, I'll tell you that much. And they get to the outside, of course, which is then still blocked. Apparently the signal's still blocked to enter the code. When the perimeter is deactivated. But one guy does get a little bit ahead of the game, Matt. None other than Chico. He gets well excited and decides to run out. And everybody's calling Chico back, but Chico's not listening. He wants to go, and we get like this. I was really shocked how good it was. I got to be honest, like for a film at this stage, with kind of what they were doing already, I wasn't expecting too much. I do remember this bit, and I was thinking, oh my god, what am I going to watch? But actually, the head explosion was quite brutal. It was quite good. It didn't look bad at all. It kind of aged well. I do believe that they, you know, back then, and again, you know, we're talking about 1987, when they had a lot more of these head explosions, but basically they got told to take them out. Even though this film's an 18, that's how kind of bad things were back then, to try and get things on the cinema. But yeah, I mean, there were going to be a few more of them. It's kind of a shame they didn't, because I feel like they are actually some of the best things. But they make me chuckle now when I see that, just the way it just, you know, completely splatters across. So yeah, poor old Chico gets his head exploded as he's running out there, and then of course, you know, a minute or even less than that, the code does go in. The perimeter's absolutely fine. Everybody jumps for joy, and that kind of ends that scene. But like you say, Matt, it seems like we've doubled up on our like beginning of the film, because we only have, like, I guess at this point we have like one mention about the Running Man game show, which is between a couple of guards who say like, "Did you watch the Running Man last night?" Yeah, I mean $500, something like that. That's the only thing we have in this. So I feel like we've had a kind of double beginning to this movie so far in two completely different parts. But your sum up of that, Matt, I guess you're not a too big a fan of it. If you had to choose which one you'd have rather had, the helicopter or this one?
If I had to choose between the two, I would go with the prison camp because at least it introduces you to the two other characters.
Yeah.
But like, would I be right? I mean, I think I read this, but would I be right in assuming that this was voted of the year's violent film?
Oh yeah, it was.
Because that kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can see why, but at the same time, like to what we see now, obviously things there hadn't been all those kind of gory films, the Saw movies and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know if this was out there, but I guess just the sheer. I mean, it's kind of like over violence. It's ridiculous to me. It's not like violent in terms of like the intent. I just think it's just the blood and splat and just that there's no limits to it. But I don't think it's that bad a film in the big scheme of things. If you were going to watch other films, but maybe that year I don't know what else was available that year. But maybe I have no idea. I'd have to have a look to make my own decision on that one. But we go to the next scene where we finally get to Los Angeles, and the kind of the look of it, I kind of like it. It kind of reminded me of a poor man's version of Blade Runner, if I'm being totally honest. I get the feeling that whoever was doing the art in this film was probably a fan of Blade Runner in some ways, just because they look like they used a lot of miniatures. And the kind of scale of it looked kind of similar to what they were trying to do. But you got those big screens up, and you see, the three of them walking around, and they're trying to. The film is trying to hit home that everything is about that network. They are controlling everything out of nowhere. What did you make of that shot, Matt, that you get of Los Angeles when they arrive there? Is that something you liked, or do you think it's a bit dated now? How does that stand up in the test of time?
No, I do like those kind of shots, especially when, like you said, they use pictures, and the future does look, like we said before, pretty bleak, but I do kind of buy into this because, a lot of people have a negative view of the future because, it does weigh on a lot of people's minds, just like what will the state of the earth be like, because people do continue to abuse it. So maybe one day that will be true. But hopefully we can just watch movies like this and just wish that it will never happen.
Yeah. Well, the three of them, Loveland, Richards, and Will. Is it Wilshire or is it Wills? I can't remember the guy's name. The guy with the glasses.
Well, that shows you what an impression he made on you.
Yeah. Well. I'll look that one up. But there's an ICS advert running in the background whilst they're looking around, and they bump into a guy called Stevie, who takes them to meet Mick. Mick is played by Mick Fleetwood. I didn't expect to see. I completely forgot he was in this film, and I rewatched this recently. And then, the drummer of the legendary, of course, Fleetwood Mac, he's in this. It seemed weird because he was playing a guy called Mick. And, I wasn't sure where he was going with this because it felt like almost, is he Mick? Is he playing himself? I didn't really get it because he mentions to Ben Richards when he's sitting in that chair, he says, "You're the man that burned my records." And I was like, what? Is there another meaning to this? Has Mick Fleetwood become the underground mastermind of the rebellion almost? I'm not sure what to believe. And then not only that, the guy Stevie, he's that name and character played homage to Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac as well. So there was somebody that maybe like Fleetwood Mac here that got them involved. But I was like, what the hell is he doing here, this guy? Anyway, he's quite a useful guy because he's the guy that can take off these collars and, you get that line. It's something like, I don't know what he says now, but isn't it like, "Come here, my lovely," and then they shoot you down some toilet by the looks of it, and that just goes bang, doesn't it? What did you make of this part, Matt? Because it's Ben Richards in this. This is the first time in the film